Shri Sachidananda Satguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Sai Ram. Let us understand chapter number 20, the lesson of the essence of Ishavasya. But before that, let us do the Namasmaran followed by chapter number 20, and we will conclude chapter number 20 with the Aarti. Shri Sachidananda Satguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Shri Sai Nathaya Namah. 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 Om Sai Ram. Chapter number 20, the lesson of the essence of the Ishavasya. I bow down to Shri Ganesh. I bow down to Shri Saraswati. I bow down to the Guru. I bow down to the family deity. I bow down to Shri Sita Ramachandra. I bow down to Shri Satguru Sainath. Om, I bow down to the Guru. You are the Manasarovar, lake of the Himalayas, for us devotees, the swans. Your sweet words of wisdom are the pearls at your feet and our only refuge. You are our eternal support. You are the most benevolent. You feed us the prasad of pearls of salvation. You give us refuge and tranquility. You make us escape the cycle of births and deaths. How great is the abode of Siddha Sai. Worldly fatigue is removed with mere darshan. When you go nearer, the delusion of the world disappears, and when you are in his company, he wards off all weariness due to the karma. Originally, Sai without a form is what Sai is. For the sake of his devotees, he has taken the form and participated in the drama as an actor, along with the actress of Maya. Let us meditate on Sai of those attributes and go to Shirdi for a while. Let us observe carefully what happens after the noon Aarti. After noon Aarti, Maharaj would come to the outer side of the masjid and distribute udi amongst the devotees with most compassionate look. The loving devotees would immediately hug his feet and standing up, they would adoringly look at his face and enjoy the shower of udi. Baba also lavishly offered hands full of udi in the palms of devotees. With his thumb, he would apply it to the foreheads. Oh, how much abundance of love he had in his heart. Wow, go and have your meals. Go, Anna, go and eat your delicious food. Go, everyone, go to your own homes. He would address each one in that manner, though to this day it is not possible to behold that. All those past glories moments could be captured at those particular places at particular times by means of heart concentration. So be it meditation, thus visualizing him from his feet upwards to his face, prostrating before him humbly and lovingly. Let us continue to narrate the story. At the end of the last chapter, I told the listeners that Baba had made a maidservant to clear the doubts about the meaning of Shruti. Das Ganu started to write the commentary Ishavasya Bhavartha Bodhini, in which some meaning was obscured. So he came to Shirdi to his Sadguru for elucidation. At that time, Baba said, when you return, the maid servant at Kaka's house will clear your doubts. That is the last point of the narration. Now let's continue from then. Listeners should listen carefully so that their attention is not distracted. Das Ganu had started to explain the meaning of every stanza of the Ishavasya Upanishad in verse form for those who did not know Sanskrit. With this intention, he translated the meaning of Ishavasya into simple, lucid Marathi. This Upanishad is full of hidden meaning, though the word to word translation was achieved. Unless the deeper implied meaning was clear, he felt dissatisfied. The essence of the four Vedas is really the treasury for the Upanishads, but without the grace of God, Guru is difficult to understand. One may say that I am learned and I will try on my own to understand the Upanishads and explain the meaning exactly, but it is never possible and it cannot be brought into practice till the Guru's blessings are received. The secret riddles are impossible to solve at every step. One would come across difficulties, but for him who seeks the feet of the Guru, there is not a slightest difficulty. The profound meaning reveals itself very naturally to him. That knowledge, which is the science and realization of self, is the weapon to destroy the cycle of birth and death. It can be achieved by giving up ego and attachment, and thus one should qualify oneself to expound on it. If one takes refuge at the feet of such people, then within moments the meaning is revealed, that imprisoned intellect is liberated, and the perplexity of meaning disappears. While translating the Ishavasya into Marathi, Das Ganu underwent such a plight. But when Sainath blessed him, his difficulties were overcome. He had little knowledge of the Sanskrit language. Even then, he bowed down to Acharya Vidyaranya and at Baba's feet and began to write the verses in the verse form. Das Ganu's language was like the flow of milk which was added sugar of Sai Prasad. Now, all listeners, listen to the sweetness resulting from it. In for a moment with respect. So be it. You should read the original if you wish to understand fully the implications and the meaning of the Bodhini to which I have referred a while ago. The purpose of my narration is different. Bear in mind, if his devotees come across any difficulties, passages while reading the book, Maharaj can satisfy him without uttering anything. See how he does it. This is the purpose of narrating the story so that the listeners should understand the gist. I have only this in mind. So now listen and pay attention. The writing of the commentary in the verse form was completed. Scholars approved of it. Das Kanu's aspirations were fulfilled. But certainly one doubt remained. He put it before the scholars. They all discussed it in length, but the doubt was not clear to satisfaction. In the meantime, for some reason, Das Ganu had to go to Shirdi, and lo, his problem was solved in the simplest way. He went to have Sai's darshan, held the feet of the Lord at his head, prostrated himself, and felt full of happiness. One compassionate glance from the saint, sweet words from the mouth of a saint, the smiling face of a saint bestow the devotees with good fortune. Even the mere darshan of saints is able to ward off all sins. How can the good fortune of those described who are permanently in their company? Hello, Ganu. From where have you come? Enquired Baba. Is everything all right? Are you happy and contented? Das Ganu answered, When you have graced when you have graced and protected me, why should I be unhappy? I am profoundly happy. You know everything. So why are you making small talk as a formality? I too am aware why you are asking about my happiness. You propelled me to start a new venture. When in full swing, you have created an insoluble problem which no one can resolve, however it may be tried. Thus ran their mutual exchange as Daskanu pressed his feet and asked the question referring to Ishavasya Bhavartha Bodhini. While writing the Ishavasya Bhavartha Bodhini, my pen has stopped. Many doubts and misconceptions arise in my mind. Baba, please solve them. He presented the whole matter from the beginning to the end at Baba's feet with respect and placed his doubt with which was extremely difficult to solve. Das Ganu humbly pleaded to Sainath, saying, all my efforts over this book are going to be futile. You know the whole story about Ishavasya. Unless the doubt is cleared, the contents of the book will not be clear. Maharaj gave him blessings and said, be happy. Oh, what is so difficult about this? When you go back to your place, the maid servant from Kaka's house will remove the doubts easily. That Kaka and Bao Sahib Dikshit, one of Baba's loving devotees who have always engaged in Guru service, full devoting his mind, body, and speech to him. At a little distance from a famous city called Bombay, in a village called Parle, stayed Hari Bhau. His real name was Hari, which his parents gave him. People called him Bhau Sahib, and Baba had yet a third name for him. Mahajani was called Bade Kaka, Nimonkar Matare Kaka, and Bhau Sahib Langade Kaka or Bambia Kaka. The parents give him one name. A name is also according to the zodiac sign, and the nickname was also given. Thus, there are many ways of giving names. Maharaj gave different names, and these were used many a times. That name itself became like a title which was lovingly held. Sometimes he was called Vikshisu, sometimes Kaka. Baba stamped him with this, and Kaka became famous in Shirdi by that name only. Das Ganu was surprised, and all others were astonished also. How could Kaka maidservant resolve the doubt? A maidservant is, after all, a maidservant. How much education could she have had? How learned could she be? Everything seems strange. To discover the meaning of the Shruti, it's far beyond the intelligence of a maidservant. Maharaj is just joking. People spoke thus. All thought that Maharaj was only indulging in humor, but Baba's words, even though uttered jokingly, was accepted as truth by Das Ganu. Having heard these words of Sai, people thought that those words were said casually, but for Das Ganu, those words were the real truth. Though Sai had spoken casually, all people were anxious to experience the outcome of those words. Whether they may or may not be uttered jokingly, they could never be meaningless because in every word that Baba spoke, there was a store of profound meaning. Whatever Baba said, they were not mere words but seals of destiny. Not one word would ever be futile. It would accomplish the task at a proper time. This was Das Ganu's firm belief. Whatever may be the feelings of others, according to the measure of one's faith, the fruits were received. One gets fruits according to one's devotion. One has the strength according to one's belief. A loving heart determines the extent of purity of experience. He was the crown jewel amongst those who were learned. His words were never true. He had pledged to fulfill the desires of his devotees. This was his creed. The Guru's words are never in vain. Listen to this story attentively. All the miseries of the world will disappear and you will take the spiritual path. Das Ganu returned to Parle and went to Kaka Sahib Dikshit's house, wondering eagerly as to how Kaka's maid servant was going to help him. The next day, in early hours of the morning, while Das Ganu was still in bed enjoying those moments of perfect contentment after a sound sleep, a strange incident happened. A young peasant girl was singing in a melodious voice, in a tune that touched Das Ganu's heart. The song was sung with long drawn notes. The composition was appealing. When he heard it, he was carried away and listened attentively. Suddenly, he was fully awakened. His attention was caught by the meaning of the song. He listened to it with rapt attention and was thoroughly pleased. Whose daughter is this child who sings seriously and melodiously? She has fully explained the enigma of Ishavasya. He mused. He hoped that she is the same maid servant. Let me go and see who she is, who has, through her simple language, revealed the meaning of Shruti. When he came outside, he saw a really pleasant girl, and she was cleaning the utensils in Kaka's backyard at a particular place assigned for such work. When he inquired, he discovered a surprising fact that this girl was the sister of a male servant called Namya, who was serving in Dikshit's home. He was certain that she was the maid servant. Her song wiped off all doubts. What can saints not do? Even a buffalo recited the Vedas at the command of one. Thus, the song sung by the girl became the means for Das Ganu's satisfaction. All the people understood the implications of the greatness that lies behind Baba's jocular words. Some said that Das Banu was sitting and doing his puja in the temple room in Kaka's home at the time when he heard the song. Whatever it was, the conclusion is that you should mark how Maharaj taught his devotees in different ways. Sit wherever you are and ask me, why do you wander from place to place? I will satisfy your curiosity. Have this much of faith. I will fill the space. There is not a place where I am not. I appear everywhere where there is devotees' deep devotion. Be it so. That girl was 8 years old and was wearing torn rags and was singing sweetly about the description of a beautiful orange sari. How lovely is the sari with a in brocade work. How beautiful is the border. How wonderful is the ornamental end was the burden of the song which engrossed her. With scarcely enough to eat, her body barely covered by rags she wore, yet she appeared happy, singing about somebody's orange sari. Seeing her poverty and her romantic nature, Das Kanu felt pity on her, and he said to Moreshwar, look at her body, it is barely covered. Why don't you give her a sari? God will be pleased, and you will also be performing a meritorious deed. Moreshwar was a kind-hearted person by nature, so at the request of Das Banu, he bought a nice sari and happily presented it to the girl. The girl was very happy when she saw the sari. It was like a person who subsisted usually on a coarse and unsavory food and is lucky enough to get a feast. The next day she wore that sari, whirled and danced about, excelled all the other girls as she was very pleased with the sari. The day after, she put away the new sari in a box and wore her old torn sari, but did not look disheartened. Though she did not wear it and kept it aside, Das Gano felt that her previous longing had disappeared because of the different attitude. She kept her new sari at home and came along wearing the torn one again. Still, she did not look forlorn on the account of deficiency of a sari. To wear tattered clothes because you are incapable of wearing anything else is a different issue, and being capable of possessing and yet doing the same is different. The latter is known as being contented. Thus, happiness and unhappiness depends on one's attitude. This way, Das Ganu's riddle was solved. He discovered the essence of Ishavasya, and the meaning was clear to him then and there. When God has completely pervaded the whole of the universe, how can anybody think that there could exist a place without the presence of God? This is perfect, and this too is perfect. This perfect comes out of that perfect. If something is taken from that which is perfect, the remaining will also be perfect. The girl's poverty was an act of God. Even the ragged clothes were a part of it. The donor, the donee, and the donation all belonged to destiny. God pervades all. Me and mine should be completely given up. Act without pride and enjoy the pleasure with an outlook of non attachment. Have no desire for anything. Such were Baba's words, that they never failed to have the desired effect. Many people had experienced of it. He never left Shirdi till the end, but he could appear in front of people even in modest places. He appeared at Machindagarh for the sake of a person or for someone else. He would appear in any city like Kolhapur, Solapur, Rameshwar at his will. To some, he gave darshan in his usual dress and form. To some, he appeared in dreams or when awake, be it day or night. He would satisfy the wishes of his devotees. Such incidences were not few. How many of them could be described? Though he stayed in Shirdi, there was not a place which he could not reach. Just take the case of this girl, a mere stranger, an ordinary poor maid servant who sang the song describing an orange colored sari very casually. That a doubt should arise in the mind of Das Ganu and it should be placed before Baba, that it should be answered by a maid who stayed at Kaka's. Is is this not Maya's chimerical handiwork? How did Baba know that there was such a maid servant there and that she would sing a song sometime and that it would explain the meaning of the Shrutis? But it did happen and certainly it did. Das Ganu was amazed. His doubts were cleared and he understood the meaning of Ishavasya. The listeners may wonder why all this was contrived. Why did Baba himself not clear the doubts then and there only with his own lips? Couldn't he have done it there? But then the greatness of it all would not have been understood. Baba showed the girl was encompassed by God. The elucidation of the reality of the Atman is the subject of all Upanishads. This is in itself salvation without any doubt. This is the precept of the Gita also. The beings are different, but the Atman is one. The Atman is incapable of enjoyment and also action. It is not impure and is not bound by sins or merit of good deed. I am a hybrid Brahman by caste, and all others are low caste. Till such conviction of discrimination exists, there are necessarily bonds of karma. I am formless and everywhere. There is nobody besides me. I am in all creation, is the expression of a self realized man. Man had fallen from the higher state of Brahmanhood. His definite determination should be to retrieve the lost position again, somehow, in some way. The Shrutis and Smritis and the Vedant philosophy also propagates this. This is surely the ultimate aim that has fallen, may be lifted back in the original state. God resides in every being till such time that this consciousness is not attained. Enlightenment cannot be granted even by Lord Rishikesh himself. By performance of one's duties, the mind will be purified. The concept of the oneness of the Atman will be clear, and this knowledge will protect like a shield against duality of passion and miseries of the materialistic world. That Almighty God who envelops all three worlds along with the organic and inorganic beings is inactive, blemishless, beyond the material nature, formless. God pervades the world of names and forms from inside and outside. I alone am the all pervading spirit, devoid of any particular shape. That which in reality is without form, appears and possesses a form because of illusion. For a covetous person, only this material world exists, but the very same world is meaningless for a non attached person. This ordinary material world of being movable and immovable objects should not be taken into account at all. You should have full faith in God, who is the Supreme One. You cannot comprehend this concept about this world and its nature, then at least try to give up the passion of accumulation of wealth, gold, etc. Even if this is impossible to practice, then remember that you only have to have a right to action. Perform duties as long as you live, even if it is to be for 100 years. That should be practiced always in accordance with the doctrines prescribed by the scriptures. For example, Agni Otra in the proper fashion as per the caste and creed to which a person belongs till the intellect becomes pure. This is one way of inner purification, the other is renunciation. But without practicing either, only mundane knowledge will be collected, and one will have to undergo all the suffering as destined, which will chain you forever to the cycle of life and death. This knowledge of self realization and the Upanishads was not imparted unless the worth of the person is realized. The doctrine of the Upanishads remain only superficial till the sense of oneness is not developed within. If the seeker demands it initially, it has to be given. Therefore, Baba sent Das Ganu back, saying that the maid servant would clarify. If Baba had himself clarified and imparted that knowledge, then the subsequent incidents would not have occurred. I pervade everything, and there is nothing without me. This understanding about Baba would not have been realized. That Kaka's maid servant is none other than myself. I have given this indication and explained the Ishavasya. Without God's grace and the blessings of the Guru, it is impossible to penetrate the knowledge of self realization. Thus, a first hand lesson from a Siddha is essential. Whatever knowledge that lends to the understanding of the Atman, only that should be learnt. Actually, all established knowledge is myself, and nothing exists beyond myself. When the clear understanding of the knowledge of self comes about and the doctrine of oneness in duality is realized, that is, I am one with the Supreme Soul, then God is pleased with such a person. Thus, when the nature of self is understood and the path of self realization is strictly followed, when one has undaunted faith in the transcendental, then the ultimate will be reached. In the next chapter, stories about Vinayak Thakur others are going to be narrated. Let the listeners listen with respect, and it will lead to the divine path. These stories are also very pleasing. When the listeners hear them, their desires to have a glimpse into the life of a great person will be gratified, and devotees will be blessed. Just as darkness is dispelled when the sun arises, similarly, by partaking the nectar in the form of these stories, illusion will disappear. Inconceivable is Sai's skill. Who else but he can relate the stories? I am only an instrument. He himself makes me speak. May there be well being. This is the end of the 20th chapter of Shri Sai Satcharithra, written by the devotee Hemad Pant, impelled by saints and virtuous people, called The Lesson of the Essence of Ishavasya. This is offered to Shri Sadguru Sainath. May there be auspiciousness. Now let us do the Aarti. Shri Sachidanand Guru साईनाथ महाराज की जय. शिर्डी माझे पंढरपूर साई बाबा रमावर. बाबा रमावर साई बाबा रमावर. शुद्ध भक्ती चंद्रभागा भाव पुंडलिक जागा. पुंडलिक जागा भाव पुंडलिक जागा. याओ याओ अवके जना करा बाबा श्रीवंदन. साई श्रीवंदन करा बाबा श्रीवंदन. तनु बने बाबा साई भाव पाव माझे आई. पाव माझे आई भाव पाव माझे आई. कनेलो त्यांगन वने कचरना तुया पाहिन रूप तुझे. प्रेमीन रंगीन अनंत पूजिम पवेव इन बने नमा. त्वमेव माता पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बंधु सदा त्वमेव. त्वमेव विद्या दैरंगमेव त्वमेव समर्पयामि अच्युतं केशवं राम नाम नारायणं कृष्ण दामोदरं वासुदेवं हरे ईदवं माधवं गोपिका विलवं जानकी नायकं रामचन्द्रं हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे श्री गुरुदेव दत्त सच्चिदानंद सद्गुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय। Om Sai Ram. I urge all the listeners to read one chapter of the Sai Satcharithra daily and soak in Baba bliss. Baba bless you. Om Sai Ram.